Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman!
I'm Batman. I'm Batman. I'm vengeance.
Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Make sure you visit holybatcast.com, or you can follow us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. You will find us. If you love the show, you want to help support us, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. As always, a big thank you to our patrons. You guys make it all so much easier, and it is very much appreciated. We're also part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you're looking for other shows to enjoy, you can check those out at rf4rm.com. As always, I'm Andy DiGenova. You can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. In this episode, we have a surprising amount of DC news, so that's what we're going to focus on. We're talking about all the news. There's some stuff about Justice League. There's a little bit about HBOMax. There are rumors around possible shows for HBOMax. There's a little bit of casting. There's a little bit of everything. So we're going to talk about that. And we're returning to Batman Beyond. Just when you think we forget about it, we come back with a new episode. So we're going to do that as well. Joining me, as always, has become the case, it's my good pal, Brendan Lowe. Good morning, Brendan.
Morning. How are you, aside from tired?
You know, that's accurate. I am tired, but I am alive, so, can't complain too much.
When we were sort of talking pre-show there about all the news, it was like, holy shit, I only know about half of this stuff, so we'll see how that goes.
What's funny is I knew about all of it, but it wasn't, like, front of mind, so when we talked...
It's when you compile it.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, well, yeah, there's actually been a lot. Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same, but yeah, when you were listing it all off, I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we'll talk about these two things, and then I was like, well, let me see if there's anything else. I was like, oh yeah, we should talk about that. Oh yeah, and also that, and also that. So the list grew, but that's cool. The good news is we brought in reinforcements, Brendan. It's not just me and you.
No.
Thank God.
Because how boring is that going to be
gets
after
so,
a while?
Oh God, it gets so boring. And so,
keep it exciting.
We put out an ad for a third, as we do. And it ain't Jamie, but I did get Jamie to do Real Fans. I don't know if you noticed that. That dropped.
I saw that pop up.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I am sorry that I couldn't be a part of it as it was originally planned. I forgot I was having someone over for dinner, but it's one of my annual favorite listens. So even though I couldn't be part of it, I can't wait to listen to it.
Yeah. So yeah, for anybody out there listening, if you missed Jamie and you want to hear our best of 2020. That just dropped on the Real Fans for Real Movies feed last night. So check that out as well.
Spoil alert. I know what Jamie's number one's going to be. If you've listened to him or followed him on social media all this year, when he was on there, you'll know exactly what his number one is.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of surprises, but it was fun anyway. So anyway, the point is Jamie. He did Real Fans, which is one podcast for the week. He's out. So we do have one of our patrons joining us, and it's someone who I've been meaning to get on the show for a couple months now. But, with Christmas, I'm like, I'll deal with it in January. But anyway, he graciously agreed to join us on his Saturday evening, and we appreciate it. So please welcome Tony Hall. Hey, Tony.
Hi, Andy. Hi, Brendan. I am super excited to be on. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad I can spice up your relationship on Saturday night.
Well done. Thanks for rolling with it, Tony.
You're not the first, and you won't be the last.
Oh man. No, it's great to finally have you. You've been a friend of the show for a while now, but it is your first appearance, and so as is tradition, you got to tell us a little bit about your Batman fandom and your favorite Batman movie and why.
All right, so age-wise, I believe I'm closer to Brendan's age than you, Andy. I'm born in '83, so I was
a year older.
A little year older, yeah. So I was 5 when '89 came out. I missed that whole experience. I didn't see it in the theater, but right after that, I remember getting the Topps trading cards for the Batman '89 movie, and just poring over those and just studying the backs and reading everything about it. My mom got me a '89 action figure, the one with where his little belt comes out and it kind of like,
Yep.
like a little. Yeah, so I used to play the crap out of that thing. And by the time Batman Returns came out, I was all in. So I missed '89, but Returns was I just wanted to see it so bad that summer. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it that summer in the theater. I don't remember why. I think my mom might have fallen into that trap of the other moms hearing that Batman Returns was bad for kids.
I hear you, my friend.
I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't remember specifically being told I wasn't allowed to watch it, but I feel like that was a thing. So that could have been it. But what does a boy do when his parents don't let him do something? I did what anyone would do, and I went to grandma. So I went to my grandma for Christmas, and I told her, I was on the phone with her, telling her what I wanted for Christmas, and I was like, so specific, like, I need Batman Returns. Okay, it's at the video store. It's got Batman on the front, like Catwoman in the middle and the Penguin on the bottom. I was trying to explain to her the poster and the artwork. I didn't trust that she would get the right one. I thought, what if she gets Batman 66 or how they it's some cartoon or something like that. Well, she came through. So that Christmas, I got not just the VHS, but coloring books, storybooks, action figures. Grandma came through with the Batman Returns, and by that time I had I liked '89 as well, but that was my initial Bat craze carried right into the animated series, which instantly fell in love with, and it even carried into Batman Forever, because I remember that was the first Batman movie I ever saw in the theater, and I loved it at the time. I mean, I still don't hate it or anything. It's okay, but I definitely, I like it a little bit more. I like it more than Andy, but not as much as Brendan. If I remember from your commentary episode, but I definitely loved it when it came out. Like to me, it was the best Batman movie. It hit me right at the right age for that.
Man, you and I are so similar. It's crazy.
It was just like now when I watch it, I go, okay, yeah, that's a little cheesy, but man, I loved that U2 song, and I remember the music video. I would just couldn't wait to watch it because it would show clips of the movie. Just, I don't know, everything about it. And obviously Jim Carrey was a hero of everyone my age at the time, so that was it. That's how I became into Batman, been a fan ever since. And then as far as my favorite Batman movie, now, every time I hear you ask a new guest this question, I always think about what I would say, or what was my answer. My answer.
Your time has come.
Yeah. Now I always think, okay, what am I gonna say? Is it gonna be Batman Begins or The Dark Knight? Because it kind of goes back and forth in my head. Like sometimes I think one is my favorite, sometimes I think of the other, and I just thought of it earlier today. Actually, I was like, well, what Batman movie do I watch the most? Like, which one's always in my Blu-ray player? Which one do I go back to again and again, multiple times? And the answer is neither. The answer is '89. '89 is the one I watch by far the most. I love everything about that movie. I know it's not necessarily the best as far as a plot compared to the Nolan films, but it just there's something about it that is just so perfect to me. Yeah, I mean, it's that I just love the score specifically. I think that's what kind of puts it over the top, is that score. I think it's probably my favorite film score of all time. But yeah, '89 is one that I watch multiple times a year.
Nice. I mean, yeah, we always said there's a difference between your favorite and the best, and so I get that. I get it. Well, cool. Good answer. And it's like
so
you're just
funny.
it's like you're the American version of Brendan.
I was gonna say, like, the comparisons, like, even down to the grandmother, because, like, I wasn't allowed to see Batman Returns as well, but it was the following year in '93, actually right around the time the animated series started playing in Australia. My grandmother had been promising me for ages, because she knew there was a Batman movie that I wanted to see that I wasn't allowed to. That one weekend when I went and stayed up at my nan and pop's place, which wasn't far from where I lived, she'd rent it for me, and yeah, she came through one weekend. I went up on the Saturday afternoon. She took me to the video store Saturday evening, got Batman Returns, and watched it twice before I had to go home the next day.
Nice. Grandmas, man. Grandmas were the best.
Sure are.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it on the show. Grandma Ruth took me to see Batman, Batman Returns, and Batman Forever. So, yep.
Wow.
They always had our backs. So, that's awesome. Well, very cool. Well, we're glad to have you, Tony. Thanks for sharing a little bit about your Batman fandom. Good to have you. Let's get into the news. There are ways to jump into more Batman fandom out there. So on the last episode, we talked a little bit about, well, a few things. And I mentioned that, I went into DC Universe and it still looks like the old DC Universe. And I thought it was switching over on January 1st. I was wrong. It switched over on January 21st. And a couple of you reached out and were like, hey, I don't know if you missed it, but it's actually January 21st. And I had missed it. I thought it was the new year. So thanks for that. But now it has happened. The transition has happened. DC Universe has become DC Universe Infinite. And we updated the app, and it does look different. All the videos are gone. It's a new format. There are a lot more comics on it. And so I know that you don't have it, Brendan, yet. But at this little thing I'm looking at, though, it does say it will roll out globally over the coming year.
I hope so.
So, but I did go in there and check it out. Do you know what the one thing that bugs me about this, and it's so stupid, is that, like, you don't have like a queue or a list like you do Netflix or something like that, where I can just go add to my list. Like, it makes you, like, you can create lists, but like it's not the same. It's so weird. I'm like, I don't know why you can't just add it like you would a streaming service where I just add it to my to-do list. Aside
Is that
from
in terms of the books you want to read?
Yeah, like how you scroll through Netflix and you just go add to list, so that way you can find them later. Here, you have to create a list and like name it something. So that's what I did, is I was like a to-do list, and then I put like a Christmas list for like any Christmas issues that I come across that I can read next Christmas. But it's still like, it's not just set up as conveniently as like streaming services do it, which is weird. But other than that,
How does it compare to, like, say, Comixology?
Well,
in terms of layout and stuff,
the layout is much closer to the way the DC Universe was. So like you go through and there's a home page where it's like hot titles, new releases, new to the app, There's like a whole section where it's like Wonder Woman versus Cheetah, if that's what you're in the mood for, because of Wonder Woman 1984. Okay. So the homepage has like all of that, just sort of like what's trending, what they recommend, things like that. There is also a little spot that it's the most useful where it says like dive back in. So it's like if I just read Batman 495, dive back in has Batman 496.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, oh, that's where I left off on that book. I can just jump into the next one. So anything that I'm currently reading kind of jumps in there. But for for a series that I've been meaning to read, I've been meaning to read the Bendis Superman run, still haven't. I want to put that on my to-do list, and so I had to create a to-do list, and I put it in there. So stuff like that. I wanted that to be a little easier. But one thing that was cool, it's so stupid, it's so small, but the little app icon, it gives you a choice between just the DC Universe Infinite app icon or a icon with the Jim Lee Batman on it.
I saw that.
Yeah, our pal Eric Carter. Yeah, Eric Carter goes, I didn't know I needed this, but I did. And when I saw him tweet it, I went, oh, okay, that's nice. And then I went in and it goes, oh, choose your icon. I was like, oh, now I get why he was excited. That is cool. So of course I chose the Batman one. But yeah, so they started, it says over 25,000 issues to start. That includes DC Black Label is in there. And then they're going to continue to add more. This is just the launch. So it will continue to develop and everything. And this is still $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year, which breaks down to $6.25 a month. I did the year because, of course, I did. Because for $6.25 a month, that's 2 comic books. That's the price of 2 comics a month, and I've already read more than that in the past week. So, do you have this, Tony?
I do have this. I haven't been on it since they relaunched it. Although, while you were explaining it, I did notice that they added Batman Ego.
Oh, did they? See, I
gotta
add that to my to-do list.
Because, yeah, I remember when Fandom happened. You know, a lot of us fans heard what Matt Reeves said and went, I've never read it. It went, it wasn't on the app. But I checked and there it was.
Good to know. I'm going to add it to my list. I did add Batman Damned because I never read that. And if there's no Bat Dong, I am canceling my subscription and I'm writing a strongly worded letter.
There won't be.
Well, yeah. I do have the hard copy of that.
Oh, well done.
I bet you do.
I got the floppy, but then it became the hard copy. Yeah. So anyway, I found a new miniseries that I guess was new last year, but it just popped up on the app, and it's called Gotham City Monsters.
I saw you post about that.
Yeah, I was like, what is this? I've not heard of this, and I really like it. I wouldn't be mad if it came back. It's just a 6-issue miniseries to start, but it's Frankenstein, the DC version of Frankenstein, who I always really liked. And then it's Killer Croc, Orca, Lady Clay, who's like the female Clayface, Alex Bennett, I think his name is, the vampire. Is that it? Anyway.
Not sure.
Anyway, yeah, it's sort of like all of these monstrous characters in Gotham City, and it almost feels like like an offshoot of Justice League Dark, but just all monsters. And it's in Gotham, and I dig it. I'm like, yeah, I want more of these guys. Just incorporate Blue Devil, and it'll be better. But right now, I really like it. But anyway, for anyone out there, DC Universe Infinite, it is now officially launched. So far, so good. Again, I'm sure there will just be more content as we go. But like Batman, The Adventures Continue, the new animated series comic that was digital first, that's on there now. So, for anybody who didn't get that, you can now catch up on it on the app. So, yeah, it's a good option if you love your DC comics. And so far, it's good. And then all the video is slowly making its way to HBOMax.
I did start to catch up on the Batman the Animated Series Adventure Continues again. Or the Batman Adventures, sorry. The Adventure Continues the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I've read all the Christmas-themed ones now. I'm sure there's a couple more that have come out since then. But I think I'm only 1 or 2 behind now.
Nice. Well, it's about damn time. Cool. Anyway, so there you go. More DC content on your app, wherever you get it. More DC content coming to the small screen as well. So we're getting very close to the premiere of Superman and Lois, and so we got a new trailer. It's just 1 minute long, but they did announce that the pilot of Superman and Lois is going to be 2 hours, and so the trailer helped kind of promote that. But this starts in just under a month on February 23rd. So Superman and Lois trailer, Brendan, did you get a chance to watch it?
I did. I watched it the morning when I'd woken up, and it had dropped a couple of hours prior. Yeah, I mean, look, I was all in on this show before it even existed. I can remember way back when Tyler made his first appearance in Supergirl, we talked about it, and I was like, man, he needs his own show in that universe. And I think we've all been saying that from then, and especially when oh Christ, I'm blanking on his name now. Lex Luthor.
John Cryer.
John Cryer, thank you. When he was introduced, it's like, oh man, these two need their own show yesterday. And I mean, I know Cryer hasn't been announced for this show yet, but I mean, it's got to happen. But yeah, like I've really been a fan of Tyler's Superman. I'd never really seen anything with him in it prior to him being. It's the same with a lot of actors actually, until they've been cast in a DC role. And yeah, he impressed me from the get-go, and this trailer looks pretty cool. The one thing that kind of surprised me was it looks like part of the story is going to be that his sons don't know that he's Superman, or didn't know that he's Superman, which is going to be interesting. I'm still not entirely sold on is it Bitsy, her name, who's playing Lois. I don't know. She still hasn't sold me. We saw a bit of her in Crisis, but yeah, I'm hoping to warm to her in the role as the show progresses. But yeah, that minute of footage looked great. I mean, the new Superman suit looks great. I never had a problem with the previous one. I know some people didn't like it. I kind of liked it. I actually liked the cape. What would you call them? Like parts coming over the shoulder and everything. I liked it, but this new one, I mean, it does look it looks very kind of cinematic actually. Yeah, I can't wait, and it's the 2-hour premiere too. That's got me excited. It's going to be like, well, for me, 1994 all over again, sitting down and watching the movie length premiere of Lois and Clark, but this time it's Superman and Lois. So I'm pumped.
Nice. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, I did see the trailer as well a couple days ago. I am excited to see it as well. It'll be my kind of like jumping back in point to the whole Arrowverse, CW verse shows. I watched, pretty religiously the first few seasons of Arrow and Flash, right up until whatever year after the first season of Supergirl. And then I got behind, and because there's so many episodes of each of those shows, it got
tough.
to be too.
Yeah,
I'm
it's overwhelming.
24 episodes of each of 4 different shows. That's like I'll never catch up. So then I just kind of gave up. But I did watch the crossover event last year, so I watched all of those. And that was really fun. And yeah, I mean, I always liked Tyler as Superman. I remember when I first saw him, I kind of had that reaction of like he's kind of short, or he's smaller than the typical Superman actor. But the minute he spoke and kind of like had his first scene, he nailed the smile, the mannerisms, and I thought, okay, yeah, he's really good. So I'm excited about it. I definitely would love to see John Cryer show up, even if just for a few episodes, because he was by far my favorite part of the crossover last year. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I thought it was a neat trailer. It's interesting that the trailer felt a little more focused on Clark and like where he is in his life than it is on Superman. So I'm excited to get a little more Superman. I agree. I love the new suit. I didn't mind the old suit either, but I think the new suit is definitely an improvement. I do think that having 2 grownish sons is very different. So I'm curious as to see how much I'm going to like that, because I'm a lot more interested in Lois and Clark, since it's their show, than their sons and whatever their teenage sons are going through. So that's the part I'm a little like, I don't know if I need that much of that, but we'll see. But it's definitely a different angle to take with Superman. I mean, there's been plenty of Superman shows and Superman movies, and this definitely does feel like a new take on that. With they move back to Smallville, they have 2, again, teenage sons. What's weird is I know that like currently in the comics, Lois and Clark have 1 son. They have John. I don't know of any version where they have 2 sons. Is this the first time that that's been a thing?
I don't know. I'm more curious about how they're teenagers already.
Right. Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, unless it's some aging thing because they were on that other planet or whatever. But yeah, that's the part that's got me confused. It's like, how are they teens already? They only just found out they're having kids recently.
I think that might have been
stuff, so.
Yeah, that might have been part of like Crisis. Is like, once Crisis got all got fixed in the end. A bunch of stuff changed, included like Diggle's daughter, and now their kids are grown up, and I don't know. So yeah, I think I'm guessing.
You've answered my question.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's that.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, I like him. I agree with you about Elizabeth Tulloch. She was fine in what we've seen so far, but I've never been like in love with her as Lois, and so hopefully now that we are getting more of her, I will like her even more. I think again the conceit is unique to Superman, but I'm down for it. I'm excited. I'm just excited to get weekly Superman content. You know, we love Batman, but we do love Superman too, and I like getting a little more Superman. So yeah, I think the trailer was certainly promising. I thought it looked good. But I'm looking forward to a 2-hour premiere. That'll be fun.
And also too, like, I mean, that one line made me laugh with, Clark going, gee, I wish I could get drunk sometimes, things like that. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be a fun ride, but this is, man, it happened in 2006. I would tell a lie. I was going to say it's to be the first time we get 2 live-action Superman in the same year, but that's not true because Superman Returns. Smallville is still going.
Yeah.
But we get 2 Supermen this year.
2 Supermen. That's great. So anyway, yeah, I mean we'll probably just do an episode on the pilot is my guess. Seems like a big enough thing. Batwoman came back, but I have not watched the premiere yet, so I can't really speak to it.
Neither have I, honestly, and I sort of made the conscious decision last year to not continue with Batwoman. Like, I didn't mind the first season, but it didn't really thrill me. And then the whole changing of the character and stuff, and like, I don't know how they've done it, and I could be wrong. Like, people might email and say, "Oh, it was really cool," but the whole Batwoman story is so centric on the relationship with her family. I don't know, like the fact that they just didn't recast the role to me seems a little bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I'm sort of not interested if you're going to remove that family angle. So yeah, that was sort of a conversation Jess and I had last year. Was she felt we were watching like too many shows and it was hard to keep track. But I sort of was like, well, we're already losing Arrow. And I decided that I wasn't going to watch Arrow and the Canaries, but that's not happening anyway, so I don't need to worry about that. And then the Batwoman thing happened, so I've kind of dropped that. So, dropping those 2 and picking up Superman and Lois, it's still going to be manageable. Plus, this is the last season of Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I was sort of at max capacity myself, and that's not including Black Lightning that I watched the first season of, and it's one that, because it gets released on Netflix here after it's aired on the CW, it gets like dumped as a complete season on Netflix, and it's one of those ones too, similar to what Tony was saying. It's like, I liked the first season, but now it's like season 3 or 4, but it's like all these episodes. I'm like, it feels more like homework. So I haven't gone back to Black Lightning yet, but yeah, dropped Batwoman, but yeah, really pumped for Superman and Lois.
Yeah. Tony, do you watch Batwoman?
I have not seen Batwoman, and similar to Brendan, I had planned to. It was one of those that I'm like, you know what, I'm going to start watching this show. And then when Ruby Rose, is that her name?
That's
left the show. It's still on my to-do list, but it's been moved down because I'm like, well, why am I going to get invested in this character that now that I know, they're writing her out the next season.
Mm-hmm.
But I always liked Batwoman in the comics, especially the detective, like the last 2 or 3 years, or maybe right after the rebirth. I always liked, her character and her story, but I have not watched it.
Yeah, I will watch season 2. I enjoyed season 1, but yeah, like losing the lead does sap some of my excitement for it. And I just looked as we were talking, is like when I'm out in China, it's easier for me to watch things if I just buy them on iTunes. And the season pass is $30 right now, and I'm like, I'll wait for it to go on sale. It will if I wait, if I'm patient. So it's one of those things where I will catch up with it at some point. I am interested to see how they handle the change in the lead. But yeah, it's not one of those things where I'm like chomping at the bit, can't wait to see what happens next. So I'll just be patient, and when it's more convenient for me to watch it, I will. So that's where I'm at right now. I did hear like relatively positive things about the season premiere from people on Twitter and stuff going,
Yeah,
oh, okay,
I
that was
did
pretty
too.
good. Yeah, like people rolling with it. So I'm interested, but yeah, it's not one of those things that's like top of my priority list.
And it's nothing against the young actress they've cast in the role now. It's just because it's a completely different character. And like I said, so much of the Batwoman story hinges on the relationship with her dad and everything. And it's like, well, you're kind of eliminating that now. So what's the point? I still don't know why they just didn't recast the role.
Yeah.
The only reason why they wouldn't, I can think of, is if they've got Ruby Rose on the hook to come back at some point, or there could be a clause for her to return. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't see the point.
Yeah. Well, anyway, more on Batwoman when we get around to it. But speaking of Batgirl, we do have a Barbara Gordon coming to live action, but not as Batgirl. So Titans did cast their Barbara Gordon. We heard she was coming to season 3. Is it season 3 now? Yes, it is.
Season 3.
Where are we? But yeah, this came from Variety and from the Twitter account for Titans. So they're excited to announce that Barbara Gordon will be coming to season 3. The actress they cast is Savannah Welch. Apparently, her version of Barbara Gordon is the police commissioner, and she's retired from Batgirl. She will also be the paralyzed version of Barbara because she had been shot by the Joker. Apparently, Savannah Welch is best known for the History Channel series 6, but she was also in Boyhood and Tree of Life. I'm not familiar with her, but one of the cool things is that she herself has a disability, and so they cast an actor with a disability for the character with a disability of Barbara Gordon, which is pretty consistent with what they've done with Titans, where they hired a trans deaf actor in Chella Man to play Jericho. They continue to do great work as far as diversity goes. So I don't know the actor Savannah Welch, but I mean, looking at the photos, she certainly looks like she could be a good Barbara Gordon, and I'm excited to see what they do with the character of Barbara Gordon on the show. Tony, what do you think?
No, I'm excited for her. I'm not familiar with her work prior. I've never seen anything that she's in, but I'm glad that they're going with the Oracle version. I kind of expected that just because, it sounds like Warner Brothers wants to do something, or they have stuff in development for Batgirl, so it makes sense that they wouldn't want to have that version. And plus, the age of the, Dick and the other characters, that makes sense.
Well, and the older Bruce too,
Right. The really older Bruce.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do in the role.
All right.
Plus,
Brendan?
it means we get more Gotham, so as she's the commissioner of Gotham, we'll be spending more time there.
Yes. Yeah, they did say they're going to Gotham, and I know Scarecrow's supposed to show up, so I'm looking forward to all of that. So
I sort of cut and paste both what you guys said. Like, I'm not familiar with her previous work. On the few little photos I saw, she looks like she could play Barbara Gordon. I didn't actually realize she was disabled, so that's... Jesus, I was about to say that's cool. Not cool that she's disabled, but cool that she's been cast in a role like that, like you said, with the diversity thing, which is cool. That's what I was trying to say. Brendan, take your foot out of your mouth. But yeah, I'm
this just in, Brendan
Yeah.
wants more people to be disabled.
You know what I mean. I mean, I love Titans. It's a great show, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I'd forgotten that Scarecrow was meant to be show up in this season, and that really excites me because, I mean, obviously the Scarecrow we got in the Nolan films was the Nolan version of the Scarecrow. it's going to be curious to see how far they push that character, and particularly given their rating, what they can do as far as horror elements and stuff go. It could be really, really cool. So that I'm really pumped about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they could just use the costume from Gotham, and I'd be happy because I thought Scarecrow looked awesome in that. So, but yeah, Savannah Welch, she lost her leg. I don't know how, but so yeah, and there's so many actors out there like where something like that is like, I'm sure they lose out on a lot of roles because they're like, well, the character has 2 legs, you don't, and so I love when shows like this are able to give opportunities to talented people, who might have a disability who are perfect for the role. So I'm into it. I think it's cool. And yeah, I'm excited to see Barbara. I'm excited to see her and Dick's relationship and how that's played, to be in Gotham, to see Scarecrow. I'm down for all that.
Nice.
So that's coming to HBO Max. Something else that's coming to HBO Max relatively soon, it'll go quick, is The Suicide Squad. So James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. He did tweet something. Someone asked him like, how close are you to being finished? And he said something like he's a hair's breadth away from being done. So it's like this close to being finished. It is interesting though, we still haven't really gotten a trailer, so I'm sure that's something that's coming. That. Yeah. Just the little promo piece that we got for Fandom, but I think it's time to get a real bona fide trailer for that. But anyway, Joel Kinnaman was on a podcast, the Playlist podcast. Joel, why aren't you coming on Holy BatCast? We like you. We think you're cool. It's fine. It's fine. I'm good with it. Anyway.
I'll put a call out to old mate Captain Boomerang and see if I can get him. He's my next door neighbor, so.
Yeah, please do. Please ask Jai Courtney to join us. Anyway, so he talked about, yes, he wants to see the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad at a certain point. And then they asked him about the Suicide Squad, about the whole, is it a sequel? Is it a reboot? And so here's what he said. He said, with James Gunn, it's a whole new universe. It's a completely different thing. We kind of all just started with a blank slate. It doesn't feel like we're doing a sequel in any way. It's strange kind of middle ground reboot, something in between there. And then he says, I don't think that James Gunn had to compromise one iota of his vision. He really got to do exactly what he wanted. And it's definitely going to be the biggest budget R-rated movie that's ever been. It's heavily R-rated, and it's super silly. It's really childish with childish humor. It also finds these profound moments where you get really emotionally moved. And then it's super violent, and then it's silly again. Every character is just so ridiculous. So that's what Joel has to say. Tony, how does it make you feel?
I mean, I have no idea what this movie is going to be. I still, after that sizzle reel or whatever that they showed at Fandom, I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks fun based on, what we've seen. But it's really hard to kind of parse his words on the tone of the movie. It's silly, and then it's serious, and then it's violent, and then it's serious, and then it's fun. It's I don't even know how to take that. But it's not making me more or less excited for the movie, I guess, is what I'm saying. It's kind of what we've been hearing, and when we see the movie finally, I think we'll, it'll all make sense, just like it did when Patty Jenkins kept saying that Wonder Woman 84 wasn't a sequel over and over again, and then when we watched it, we're like, oh, okay, I kind of get what she's saying there. Mm-hmm. It'll be like that. But when we see Suicide Squad, we'll be like, okay, I see what they mean. It's not really a sequel. It's not really a reboot. I have a feeling it'll be like that, but yeah, I mean, as far as his comments, it wasn't anything super shocking. Nothing I was surprised by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brendan?
This movie's a tricky one for me to gauge because, yeah, we've only seen that little promo sizzle reel thing from Fandom. We haven't seen a trailer. I can't say that I'm not excited for it, but it's one, honestly, until you said about the Suicide Squad coming to, obviously over there, HBOMax and everything, I'd kind of forgotten about it. It's hard to get excited, I think, when 99% of the characters in there, I have no idea who they are. So that kind of tempers my excitement a little bit. Like, obviously, I can't wait to see more of Harley. I'm looking forward to seeing more of Captain. The characters that were in the first movie that this isn't a sequel to, apparently. I'm looking forward to seeing more of them, like Waller, Flag. That's going to be great. I don't know enough, and the other characters are so obscure that it is hard. Like, there's not really anyone else in there. When they read out that character list at Fandom, I was like, oh hell yeah! Like, can't wait to see that character. It was like, huh? Who?
Mm-hmm.
Weasel? What the hell? Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it is something obviously that I will go in, because I mean, it'll, unless things change dramatically here, it'll get a theatrical release just like Wonder Woman did. So I'll be there opening day or opening night. Pre-buy my tickets and everything. Of course I will. But it's kind of like Birds of Prey for me, in the way that I did. Difference being, I did know all of those characters, but the trailers didn't sell me. So it was kind of one that I was looking forward to, ? But I mean, obviously, I really liked Birds of Prey at the end of it. I know critics didn't that much, but hopefully it'll be the same sort of situation where I'll go in not overly pumped, but come out really happy with the finished product.
Well, to be fair, Birds of Prey got pretty good reviews, if you have to check it. Fans were divided. The reviews were pretty positive.
Yeah, I felt like I remember the reviews were good. It just didn't make the money that people were expecting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like that movie came out 5 years ago, even though it was
it hasn't even been a year yet. God,
it's like
crazy.
Here in the next week or so.
It was, that was the last movie I saw in the theater was Birds of Prey. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Like ancient.
I mean, I get what you're saying about the Suicide Squad. It is one of those things, I keep forgetting about it. And there's probably many reasons for that. But yeah, I mean, part of it, I think, is what you said, is like the characters I'm most excited about seeing are the characters that are returning from the first film, plus Polka Dot Man. Everyone else, I'm just kind of like, we'll see. Yeah. But yeah, like I think once I get a trailer, it'll be a little easier to get excited. But like what Tony said, I'm kind of taking these comments, and now what we saw with Wonder Woman 1984, I think that's what he's saying is technically it's a sequel. It's the same characters. They're back. But it's so different that it doesn't feel like a sequel. It feels like its own thing. And that's sort of what Patty was saying about Wonder Woman.
That first movie.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be true here. So technically, yes, it's it's the same cast and same characters. They're back, but it's going to be in such a different way, with such a different tone and such a different story and such a different sensibility. It doesn't feel like a sequel. It will be interesting though to see how much it might acknowledge or refer to events of the first Suicide Squad film, because I think that's really the definition there. So like Birds of Prey, they said the same kind of thing as, it's not a sequel to Suicide Squad, but there are multiple things in the movie that directly reference Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
So it's like, actually, yes, it is. And so it'll be interesting to see here. As far as how he describes the tone of like, it's ridiculous, it's super violent, it's super silly, but it hits you emotionally. I mean, all of this sounds like what we got from James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy films. So all of that tracks as far as I'm concerned. It's just, I just hope that, I hope the silliness is done in a way that I laugh and I'm on board and I don't roll my eyes, because for the Guardians films, it was both. Some of it I was super on board for, and some of it I just thought was too much. And I just am afraid that might be the same here, where it's just because he didn't have to compromise any of his vision, it might just be a little too much. We'll see. But again, it's really hard to judge any of that until we see a real trailer, and then of course the movie itself. So I am looking forward to it. It is one of those kind of nice surprises that, because I keep forgetting about it, then it comes up and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Plus we get Suicide Squad in August. That's great. So yeah, again, like not super surprising his comments. They're always kind of threading that needle of, it's a sequel, but it's not, It's a C-boot, a sequel and a reboot. But anyway.
The other thing too, like with that first movie, I mean, obviously Joker was a selling point, but we going into that movie, we knew that Batman was in it, And love or hate that movie, the few little scenes that Batman are in, they're friggin' awesome.
Oh, they're great.
They're great Batman scenes. So I mean that
They're the best scenes in the movie. Well, no, maybe not the best. They're my favorite scenes in the movie.
yeah, I mean that's a bit of a selling point for that first one too. Love or hate that finished product, Batman's in it, and those scenes are pretty sweet. So knowing that that's not going to be the case this time around as well, it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I understand that completely. Well, very cool. The Suicide Squad coming to HBO Max in August, but I think we're going to be getting Zack Snyder's Justice League in March. Again, that's where all signs point to March, which is exciting. And in the build-up to that, we got some merch. So now there are some official shirts with Darkseid from Zack Snyder's Justice League available on the DC Universe merch store, or the DC shop. So I saw these pop out. I thought they were pretty cool. I haven't ordered them, but I think they're pretty cool. It's just nice to see some additional promo art for the real version of Justice League, shall we say, or the original version. So I thought these were pretty neat. Did you guys order them?
I haven't seen them. I got the one from Ink to the People that was released just before Christmas. The one with Darkseid, sort of the ink running down the white shirt, and then on the back how it's got like all of existence shall be mine, and on one of the sleeves it's got the Zack Snyder Justice League logo. So I ordered that one and it arrived about 2 weeks ago. So I've worn that a couple of times in the last 2 weeks, but I haven't seen the new stuff that you're referring to. And I'm not sure if that shirt that I've got's I think it might have been a limited run because it was like a fundraising thing. But I'll have to check it out. I won't buy any because I'll get shot by Jess. But yeah, it would be. I am keen to check them out, though, I must say.
I'm going to order them for you, but I'm not going to say they're from me. And when Jess asks, I'm going to go, no, I didn't send it. He's just buying shit, not telling you.
As long as, if she sees that there's no change to the bank balance and I get them, not a problem. Not a problem at all. Actually, I did see one on Twitter, I think earlier today, but it was a post from Ink to the People saying if you wanted to get them by March, you needed to order now. And it was like a long sleeve one that had like all the hero logos down the sleeve and then like all the characters on the front. That looked cool.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Tony, what about you? Zack Snyder Justice League merch.
I've seen the t-shirt, the both the one that Brendan referred to from last month and then the one that they was a few days ago they had it out with Darkseid on it.
Yeah.
I have not ordered it. I don't know if I will. After I ordered 6 shirts at Fandom or after Fandom. So I kind of used my my DC expenditures for that, but I might still get one. It depends on, let me see what colors they come in. If they come in multiple colors, because I got a lot of black T-shirts and a lot of red T-shirts after Fandom. A lot of the Batman stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, these are pretty cool. I haven't ordered them because A, I'm still in China, and B, my T-shirt collection is completely out of control. And I didn't even order.
I would get shot.
Yeah, I didn't order any from Fandom, and so it's my new rule for T-shirts is my same rule for coffee mugs, which is if I don't love it, then I don't need it. And so me going, oh, that's cool, isn't enough. I have to go, oh my God, that's so good, I need it. That's my new line.
My problem is that happens with nearly everyone that I see.
Wait till you're my age.
Yeah.
Sweet summer child. But anyway, it's cool to see the stuff pop up. Honestly, it seems like they're also going to be doing action figures for Zack Snyder's Justice League. Those I don't think I'll be able to pass up. Like T-shirts, unless it's a really amazing design, I can pass it up. But if I can get a new set of Justice League figures, I'll probably do it.
that's going to be harder to say no to.
Yeah. But there was another change for Zack Snyder's Justice League that came out, I think, right after we recorded the last episode. That was worth mentioning is, when they announced it, there was a little bit of back and forth about like, oh, it might be a miniseries, it might just be a movie, it might be 6 episodes, it might be 4 episodes. And it seems like it got confirmed that it's going to be 4 one-hour episodes, which we talked about at the time, and we were into that. But now on Vero, someone asked Zack Snyder, like, hey, like, is it still 4 episodes, or is it all just one thing? And he said, yeah, one shot. So now it seems like the 4-episode format went away, and now it is 1 4-hour movie, which does make it the longest superhero movie of all time. And I think we definitely talked about it off the show, but it was funny how much arguing this caused, which
my God.
which I felt was so strange, because I'm like, my reaction when they were like, oh, it's going to be 4 1-hour episodes, I was like, great, cool, can't wait, that sounds good. And now they're like, it's going to be 1 4-hour movie. I'm like, cool, great, can't wait, that's fine. Like, for me, if you're going to give me a whole pizza, or you're going to give me a pizza cut into 4 pieces, I still get the whole thing. I don't care.
That's my attitude.
So that's fine. So for me, I almost thought it was non-news. I was like, oh, okay, great. It's all going to be together now. Cool. But there were a lot of like impassioned conversations around it. Some people saying, oh, this is a horrible mistake. And some people saying, thank God, that's the way it should be. And it was literally 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I just was like, that's fine. So anyway, for me, it doesn't move the needle at all. I'm like, great, get to see the whole thing. I am going to watch it in one big sitting. I'm going to make a thing of it. I'm going to order some food. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to enjoy the whole thing. But yeah, it was just interesting to see that this sparked a little bit of controversy, maybe? I don't even know if you can call it that, but at least some disagreement about whether or not this was the way to go.
Which is really rare for this movie.
Oh yeah, it is weird because it's the first time anyone has disagreed on anything surrounding Zack Snyder's Justice League. So the streak had to end at some point.
Good Lord.
But I don't know. A part of me is just like, is it because there was no other big news and people just needed something to fight about?
Possibly.
Like, they were like, well, there's nothing else going on, so let's pretend this is a big deal. Anyway, I want to hear what Tony says.
Oh, yeah, I'm the same. I was going to watch it as a miniseries, as a movie, as part 1 and part 2. It doesn't matter how they were going to split it up. I was going to watch it anyway. And then the other weird thing about it was, I don't remember Zack's exact quote, but you could kind of interpret it, I feel like, 2 ways. Like, he said it's all one, but I wasn't sure if he meant like a movie or if he meant they were just going to drop all 4 parts at once, like Netflix does, like a dump, so you could binge it if you wanted. Again, it doesn't matter. It just was kind of weird the way he said it. Like,
well, you are 100% right, because the question was, is it going to drop in 4 episodes or in one shot or something like that? Or is it going to be like, is it going to be dropped 4 separate episodes or one shot? And he just said one shot. So you could also interpret it as, oh, they're all 4 are dropping at the same time.
Right. Like, I thought either the question was like, were they going to do it like The Mandalorian, where it's a week, or Titans, or like that it comes out once a week, you have to wait, or you can watch it all at once. I mean, it still doesn't matter. I don't care. But I thought that was interesting. And then if some people, I feel like on Twitter and stuff, just want to argue like they're working for HBOMax or Warner Brothers, like they have a stake in it, because then a lot of the arguments I saw was like, oh, this is going to be bad for the no one's going to want to watch a 4-hour movie. It's like, they're just trying to get subscribers. Once you subscribe, and they don't care if you turn it off after 10 minutes of watching it. Mm-hmm. They want you to subscribe. So I don't know why that was, in some of the social media arguments I saw, was that they were saying it was a bad move by Warner Media to do something like that. And it's not like they're hoping that it's a hit so they can do a sequel. Like, I mean, as far as we know, they're just letting Snyder finish
Cul-de-sac.
this. And, yeah, yeah, exactly, cul-de-sac. So it's not like they have all these hopes, like, oh, this has to be a success, or else, our whole plans. It's like, at this point, we're kind of playing with house money. Like, this is something that we never thought that we were gonna get, and we are. So it's just, I'm just gonna enjoy it and see, looking forward to it, and I'll probably do what Andy's doing and do the 4-hour thing. Yeah, I guess it depends on when they drop it. If they drop it on like a Friday night, I might only do 2 and 2. But if they drop it on a weekend, there's a good chance they'll just do it in one day.
Yeah. Well, and it is funny because I did see that argument, because I think someone did tweet us back and going, oh, well, it's not because I care how I'm going to watch it, but the fear is it's going to turn off a casual viewer. And I'm like, well, I just feel like a casual viewer is going to make would make the same decision whether it's 4 episodes or a movie, because they're going to watch the trailer and decide whether they want to watch it. And then whether they watch the first episode or the first hour, if they're not into it, they're going to stop watching it. I don't think the format affects that in any way. Or
streaming, because it's streaming, eliminates that anyway.
Yeah.
Because you can literally consume it how you want. Like if this was a cinematic release worldwide, I can totally understand the argument of it being a 4-hour movie. Like, that is a long time for people to sit in theaters. Mind you, how long was the last Avengers movie again? Remind me.
Something. Right.
But,
I mean, you can't do as many showings, per day when they're long. So.
I didn't see that final Avengers movie on the big screen, and part of it for me was the runtime. Like, I can't sit in a cinema for that long. Like, it just, I get really antsy after about 2.5, or so hours. So 3+ for me in a theater, I'm like, oh, that's a big ask, but the fact that it's going to be streaming at home, it doesn't matter. Like, it was such a moot argument. I don't understand it. Like, I used The Irishman as a comparison. Like, I wanted to watch that, and it was 3.5 hours long, and I knew that going in. So I was like, well, I'm just going to watch it over 2 nights, and that's what we did. I dare say that's probably how I'll consume Justice League. It probably be over 2 nights. I would like to sit down and do the 4-hour run. It would probably have to be a start around lunchtime, sort of early afternoon, to do it that way. For me, I think would be the best way. But I don't know. But in saying all that too, like, I'm very interested, given the state of cinemas over here, if they do special screenings of it here in Australia, despite everything I just said, pretty fair chance I'm going to go along and watch it. I mean, I would hope they have some sort of an interval where we can sort of like quickly go and empty our bladders and come back to watch the second half of it.
Yeah, that would be my only, like, if it was in a theater, I would go. Like, I want to see it in the theater. I want to see it on the biggest screen possible. I would make the 4 hours. That's fine. But I would like an intermission, because y'all know when I go to see a movie, I get a large cherry Coke, and because I'm not enjoying a movie unless I got my large cherry Coke. But for longer movies, that becomes more of an issue.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's happened to me before. I mean, honestly, I think the first time I saw The Dark Knight, one of the most anticipated movies of my life, that last half an hour, 40 minutes, I was busting to go to the toilet, and I was really uncomfortable, but there was no way I was going to get up and walk out for 2 to 5 minutes of that movie. Mm-hmm. No way in hell, particularly not the first time I saw it. And I don't like that feeling. It's not a nice feeling at all. So yeah, if it does come to the cinema here, I will go, but I would really, really like there to be a 10 to 15 minute intermission at some point during the movie. Would be fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, but it'll be very easy at home to just pause it when you get a chance. And here's the thing is, and I don't remember if this was confirmed or if this was just speculation, but someone made the comparison to was it Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where there literally are chapter breaks where, you know, like a title card comes up and it's like chapter 2.
Hateful Eight, I think. Oh well, that might have been Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That is a very Tarantino thing. In Kill Bill, I believe he did stuff like that. But I remember seeing the Hateful Eight
Yes.
when they did those limited edition 70 millimeter screenings at certain theaters, and they had an actual like overture and an intermission, like a 15-minute intermission, and it wasn't even. I feel like the movie wasn't even that long. Like it wasn't 4 hours. It was,
Right.
3. But yeah.
Yeah.
It was needed.
So I think it might have just been fan speculation of like, well, Zack Snyder could do that, and then it's really easy to decide when to pause and do whatever you need to do. So anyway, I mean, for me, again, it was a non-issue. I look forward to it regardless. And if it's a movie I love or a movie I'm looking forward to, I love a long runtime. You know, I mean, I'm obsessed with the Lord of the Rings movies. The extended editions are great. The longer, the better, because it's harder to find the time to watch it, but when I do get to watch it, I just love settling into that world and living in that world for 3.5 hours. So I feel the same way about Justice League, especially because, you know, who knows what happens after this? Are we going to get a follow-up? Or is this truly the grand finale of Zack Snyder's DC films? We don't know. But if this is the grand finale, like, yeah, the more the better. I want it to go out on a high note, and I want to be there for the whole thing. So I'd rather have the full 4 hours, especially if that's the story he wants to tell, than shaving it down to make it more palatable to the casual viewer or whatever, you know, like, so.
Exactly. And especially considering what happened with the theatrical version of BVS versus the, extended version. I mean, I don't remember how long the Ultimate Edition is, but that was one where they cut it down to be more palatable, and I mean, I don't know how you guys feel
so
about
much
it.
important stuff.
It's like it's. I haven't seen the theatrical version since the theater, because I just like, why would I want to? The story makes so much more sense. So I mean, I know it's a different movie, but like that was a big mistake that they did with BVS, so why would they cut stuff out on this one? But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole point of this is it gets to be what he wants it to be, and we all get to enjoy what he envisioned. Well,
Great.
what is exciting is March is just around the corner. More content coming to HBOMax. I mentioned earlier, like most of the videos and shows and stuff from DC Universe have made their way to HBOMax or are on their way to HBOMax, which is great. But one other thing about HBOMax that has been mentioned on the show before, and it might possibly be in the works. Right now it is still just a rumor, but I know that we talked about it relatively recently about Batman the Animated Series. You know, it's a version of Batman that is beloved, that is classic. Even non-hardcore Batman fans love it. And I think you said it, Brendan, is you're like, if HBO Max wants to make a splash, why don't they just revive Batman the Animated Series? And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, that does feel like a no-brainer, where that would be a great way to get a lot of eyeballs and a lot of buzz and a lot of hype for HBO Max, is if you bring back one of the most beloved series of all time, let alone Batman series or animated series. And so we had mentioned it. We're like, yeah, they should do that. They totally should. And then recently on Fat Man Beyond, Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin both said, yeah, they had heard that this is in the works, that there are discussions about HBO Max of bringing back Batman the Animated Series. So this rumor started making the rounds, and I don't think that Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin would mention it unless they truly had heard about it. But we're still putting it in the rumor column for now, but I also know we would love this. Tony, how do you feel about this rumor?
So I'm of two minds about this. I love the Batman the Animated Series. I think it's the best animated show of its kind ever. So obviously I'd love for them to revive it. I'm worried that if Paul Dini isn't involved, because isn't he not with like? I feel like is he with Marvel? He's somewhere else. Like if he's not involved,
He's working on the comics.
Oh, he is? Okay. But why did or maybe it was Tim. I thought one of them had left. So okay, that makes me feel better. If he's involved, and Conroy and Mark Hamill, if it's them, then 100% all in. What was weird is they in one of the articles I read, they made it seem like it was like a sequel series, and I'm like, well, what's a sequel series? Isn't that just Batman Beyond? Wasn't that the sequel series? But if it's a revival, like they're just gonna bring it back, I'm all for it. I just was worried that, are we just gonna get, they're gonna call it Batman the Animated Series, and the characters are gonna have a similar design, but it's gonna be, the new animation, which I'm not a huge fan of. Not with DC, but just in general, just the way that kind of TV animation looks now. Is it gonna have that look with different voices, and they're just gonna slap the Batman the Animated Series name on it? Then if it's that, then I'd rather just them do something new and have a new Batman animated show, kind of its own thing. But if they get, most of the original, talent, the writing talent, and the the cast that are still around, then I hope that happens.
All right. What about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, my feelings on this. I would love to see it. To me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. It's now, this year, it's 8 years since there's been a Batman animated TV show. Because Beware the Batman came out in 2013. It's now 2021, so it's been a while between drinks for just a solo, like a Batman proper show. I mean, and obviously, there was Young Justice and stuff, but, I understand what Tony's saying, and I do feel the same way. Like, I don't want them to reinvent the wheel with it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to. I mean, as far as the aesthetic look of it goes, I mean, they can still do it. I mean, we had like it or hate it, we had the Batman and Harley Quinn animated movie that was very much drawn in the style of the animated series, and that looked fine to me. If I had a choice, and I'm pretty sure I'd speak, I know at least for you, Andy, if they are going to do it, I'd really like them to have the seasons 1 to 3 look.
Yeah.
Not the new Batman Adventures, whatever it was called, with the redesign. In saying that, I'd still like Tim Drake to be part of it. And have Dick as Nightwing potentially, but I'd really, really like the original animation style and not sort of that stripped back, that look. So, but again, if they kind of look, I mean, my gut sort of tells me it would be more the season 4 look, which I'd take that over nothing, but I'd prefer it to be the older style. But I mean, you use the remaining voice talent, like there's obviously going to be some changes there, but for the most part, although those actors are still alive and still very much part of, a lot of them are still doing voice work and everything, and it just makes sense. Like a show that's so celebrated, that is scarily coming up to its 30th anniversary. So next year, I guess, would make sense if you were gonna release it. Start working on it this year for a release next year. Of course, I'm all for it. It's not going to surprise anyone. It's my favorite version of Batman ever, so bring it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. I do. It is weird because I agree with what you say, which is, I would, if they were to bring it back, my hunch is they would replicate the style of season 4 or the new Batman Adventures. Which is funny because almost every fan I've ever heard discuss it prefers the designs of seasons 1 to 3. Like, I don't know if I've ever talked to anyone who prefers the redesigned version. So I would hope they would go back to seasons 1 through 3. I think that would be great. And the art style is done in such a way that it would be very easy to continue on and honestly not miss a beat, make it look very consistent with the show, that it just feels like a continuation of the show. Almost like when Futurama came back. Obviously the gap was not nearly as large, but it was still a sizable gap between when Futurama was canceled and when it returned, where when it came back, you go, oh, wow, yeah, it's still the same show. Like, it didn't feel like a hugely different thing or a different product. And I feel like you could do the same here because of the way the show was initially designed. As you said, most of the talent is still around as long as Bruce Timm and Paul Dini continue to shepherd it. It doesn't mean you can't bring in some new blood. I think that would be good, too, because, these guys are getting older, too. They, as Brendan just said, they created the original show almost 30 years ago. So, like, new blood is good, but if they could continue shepherding it along, I think that's great. Most of the voice cast is still around. You got Conroy and Hamill. They can continue to do it. And then, we talked to Eric Bauza last year, and seemed like he was ready to jump in on almost anyone who needs to be duplicated, and I wouldn't have known the difference. Like, he is a chameleon, so there are also ways to replace people who are no longer around or available. So, yeah, I really would love it to happen. I think we all would. It's most of our favorite show. It is one of most of our favorite shows. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say is most of us, Batman the Animated Series is one of our favorite shows of all time. So, of course, more of it would only be great. And it would be a boon for HBO Max. It would be a great way to get additional buzz and additional eyeballs on HBO Max. So, makes a lot of sense. You could do it in a way where it feels almost seamless. Just more of Batman the Animated Series, less of Batman and Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the animation.
I still like that movie as a comedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
The animation in Batman and Harley Quinn was actually pretty good. So, even that would be okay. But just the tonally, more of the original Batman the Animated Series. And there's so many other things you could explore and do. And we just got a small taste of that in the Batman Adventures Continue. So that gives you an idea of where they could go. But they could just continue doing more. There's just, Batman's world is so big. I don't think it would be hard to continue doing more episodes of Batman the Animated Series. So this is a rumor I hope is true. I do wonder though if it's one of those things. This is the this is the pessimistic side of me where we said it. We're not the only ones who said, hey, they should bring back Batman the Animated Series. We're not the only ones who've said that. A lot of people have said that. So I do wonder if it's one of those games of telephone where people say it and go, oh, they should bring it back. They should bring it back. That would be great. Wouldn't it be great if they brought back Batman the Animated Series? And then someone went, yeah, what if they did? Oh my God, what if they're talking about it? And then it all of a sudden becomes, oh, they're talking about it. They're talking about bringing it back. The game of telephone. So that's certainly possible.
The way it kind of played out on Fat Man Beyond was Mark was just doing the weekly news wrap, and obviously this was part of it because it had started to make the rounds and everything. So, and it was Mark telling the story and Kevin was reacting to it, and it was him and they did have a guest on whose name is like blanking at the moment. He's from that Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. Anyway, it's when he was sort of telling the story, Mark was like, oh, it looks like Kevin knows something. And that's when Kevin was, look, I can't say anything, he said, but I have heard this story like quite a while ago before it started doing the rounds from a source who I trust. And he said it was someone who had told him about the Soul of the Dragon movie before that was a known thing as well. So it's like, where I heard it is it's by no means they're working on it, it's a done deal, he said, but from where he heard it, it was for a source that he trusts who obviously is in the know. So yeah, it's tricky. It's one of those things where, yes, technically it's a rumor, but it does seem to be like there could be something there.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's good. Cool. Well, obviously we're all for it. It would be great if it happened. And the nice thing about this rumor coming out there is I'm sure HBO Max was watching and seeing how much excitement there was just about the rumor. So maybe it'll just grease the wheels for it to happen if they're like, hey, look, people are already talking about this thing. Imagine if we announce it. Imagine if we make it happen. So it would be awesome. It would be really great to get a continuation.
speaking of Kevin Smith, I mean, like, if they're going to bring back a continuation of Masters of the Universe at Netflix, you know, with none of the original voice casts, as far as I know, you know, why the hell not? Because, like I said, it's 8 years since there's been a Batman animated series, and they're a year away from a movie coming out. So they usually like to have an animated series going to sort of cross promote a movie and vice versa.
Right.
So if you were looking to launch a new Batman animated series anyway, why not go back to the one that everybody loves and is about to have its 30th anniversary? It's pretty. Is it simpatico? Is that the term? Like it's sort of it's all sort of falling together for it to be the time to actually do it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hopefully, and just more Batman content on HBO Max, hopefully. But do you know what else is on HBO Max now? Batman Beyond. And so we have continued watching. We watched the next episode of Batman Beyond. Last time, I think we talked about the Egg Baby, the classic, the legendary Egg Baby. And so, where are we now? We are up to Zeta. So Zeta, this one was directed by Dan Reba, written by Robert Goodman. It aired on April 8th of 2000. And Zeta, it is about a military robot android that can replicate, or at least disguise itself through holograms. The old TV and movie is they're like, just say it's holograms, even though that's not how holograms work. But can essentially disguise itself as any person it wants via holograms, but it's this robot, and it was a robot that was designed to destroy and to infiltrate, kind of like a Terminator, except this robot actually wants to escape that life, wants to go out and not be a Terminator. And so it is trying to figure out a way to do this, but in doing that, it kidnaps Max and starts posing as Max so he can start developing the technology to free himself. But Max realized, this robot's not a bad guy. He brought me a sandwich, so he must be okay. But at the same time, Terry, Batman, is trying to stop him because he doesn't realize what the robot's up to. Or Zeta, I should call him Zeta. But then even Terry figures out, Zeta's got good intentions. He just wants to be free of the military. So there's a big run-in with Batman and the military and Zeta. Zeta manages to disguise it to make it look like he had been destroyed, but then he kind of walks off to go be free with the help of Terry and Max. So Zeta, Brendan, I think you had to watch it twice, right?
Son of a bitch, yes I did.
No, that's my evil plan. I'm going to keep making you watch things twice.
Look, I liked it just as much the second time as I did the first when I watched it months ago. I can't believe the last one we did was Egg Baby. That was
a while ago.
Yeah, that was a while ago. Look, it's fine. It's obvious. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't this like some weird backdoor pilot because this character had its own series for a while, like the Zeta Project or some shit? Like,
Yeah, I need to find the Zeta Project because I don't remember that at all. I've only heard it mentioned because someone wrote into us about it. But yeah, like this was sort of a backdoor pilot for another show that I don't remember ever airing.
Yeah, so I mean, Batman, it's not really a Batman episode, let's be honest. I mean, Bruce isn't in it at all. Terry's kind of a spectator. It's really all about Zeta, which is a character I don't care for, and I didn't even know it had its own spin-off show until a little while ago, like you. I think it was when that person wrote in. So I mean, yeah, it was okay, but it really didn't do much for me.
Okay, Tony,
what
a
surprise!
Think? Yeah, shocking.
I actually, I don't think it's one of the best Batman Beyond episodes, but I actually liked it more than I thought I would. It definitely, you alluded to the Terminator. I got crazy T2 influence off this episode. I mean, to the point where, Max is basically John Connor and Terry is Sarah Connor with the, calling it an it, and it, it's what he is, what he does. He doesn't change, and Max believing in Zeta. So I thought, it's been done before, and it's been done in Star Trek and other sci-fi with the AI, wanting to overcome its programming. But I mean, for 22 minutes, I thought they kind of told a self-contained story pretty efficiently. I laughed out loud a couple times. There was the sandwich part where, what does he say? Like, Genoa and Swiss, your fave.
Yes.
Or something like that when he hands it. That kind of made me chuckle. And then there was a part, they were in the monorail station at the end, and it's just some random lady walking by with skis, and she's like, the radio said snow is at 4,000 feet. Isn't that deep? And then it's just kind of a random thing, but like, I'm dumb, didn't understand what 4,000 feet at a snow level was. I don't know why that was just thrown in there, but yeah, I mean, I totally get what Brendan's saying. It's like, it's not a Batman episode without Bruce in it. I kind of feel like all Batman Beyond is not really a Batman show, though. I mean, 'cause Terry always, to me, feels like Peter Parker more than Batman. So I really miss Bruce when he's not in the episode. But
Yeah.
for a no Bruce episode, I thought this one was one of the... There's not that many episodes without Bruce, and usually those are the ones I hate, and this one I didn't hate it.
Mhm.
It was, nothing original about it. It was been done before, but it was okay.
Okay. As is usually the case, it seems like I liked it the most. I liked this episode. I agree with you guys that I missed Bruce. Like episodes without Bruce always kind of get, lose a point just because Bruce is the best part of the show. So when you don't have him, that's kind of a bummer. I did like the scene with Terry and Commissioner Gordon, though. I thought that was pretty awesome, where she was getting the info from the military, and then the military person walked out the room, and she just went, "Did you get all that?" Knowing that Terry was there the whole time, and Terry thought he was being so sneaky. So I thought that was pretty cool. I liked Zeta. I thought Zeta was pretty neat.
Yeah, Zeta was a cool design. When he was invisible, that was confusing, because it was like he was so obvious, like standing there. I was like, was he supposed to not be seen by either of them, or I don't know. It just seems like a weird effect.
Well,
I know they have.
I think we can see him because we, the audience, need to see him. But I think that, yes, like in the world, he's completely invisible.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I liked it. I thought, I liked the idea that Zeta was not a villain. He was literally just trying to be free himself. I liked that Max was heavily featured. I liked that she was really the one who saw the best in Zeta. I like when she's like, well, you remember all these people you've posed as. Why can't you just mix them up and decide who you want to be? I liked those little touches. And I liked that Terry was like, Terry was the one who's like, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'm going to watch him because I just don't know, and so he was a little more cautious. Max was a little more supportive and optimistic about it. And generally I thought it was a pretty good episode, but I don't know why this episode was like, hey, we need to give Zeta his own show. Like, I really don't understand that at all. But as a Batman Beyond episode, I thought it was pretty solid.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. Okay. And Gary Cole is the voice of Zeta, and I do love me some Gary Cole.
I did not. I missed that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But all right. So what do you think? Letter grade for Zeta, Brendan?
C.
Okay, Tony.
B+.
All right. I'm with you. B+. So there you go. I thought it was pretty good. Cool. Well, another episode, Zeta down. All right. So next one, whenever we get around to it, is Plague. So it's your homework for next time. But we're not ready to say goodbye just yet because, as always, we've got to check in with you, fine feathered finks, as we crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren.
Ironically, the first email we got here very much dovetails into what we were just discussing about Batman the Animated Series. This is from Frank Contreras, and he says, "We're due for another Batman animated show. Batman the Animated Series is impossible to duplicate, so give me your pitch for a Batman animated show." So, Brendan?
If I can't go with Batman the Animated Series, definitely not what they did with Beware the Batman. I just don't think that worked. I think they should go back, like, it should be 2D animation for a start. I don't know, like, I really like Batman the Animated Series, obviously, and I really like the Batman. So, kind of a, I don't want to say a hybrid, but something definitely in the lines of those two shows, rather than, I mean, don't get me wrong, I liked Brave and the Bold, but I want sort of a more grown-up Batman, if that's the right terminology. Yeah, something along those lines. I can't think of like a specific pitch because I haven't got a day to think about it. So, yeah, I'll just say that.
All right, Tony, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my pitch would be something within the prime Batman, so no, like, young Batman or year one type of thing. And I would also want it to not be one of those, let's do our interpretation of these villains, and they end up being, weird. Because I remember with the Batman, was that the one with the Joker had like kind of looked like a, he had like bare feet and he was swing on stuff.
Rastafarian look,
I actually ended up not minding that once I watched the show a bunch, but when I remember seeing that design, I was just like, all right, like, this isn't even the Joker anymore. He's just a guy called the Joker. So I hope they would do something. I know it just sounds like I'm pitching Batman the Animated Series, but that was why that show was so awesome, was it didn't need, like, it had a continuity, but not really. Like, Robin would kind of float in and out, and, it didn't matter what order you were watching the episodes necessarily. But yeah, I would just want an in-prime Batman with the classic Rogues Gallery, with their kind of traditional looks, and tone-wise, maybe, I guess, yeah, the Batman would be a good tone, because I felt like it did a good job of kind of straddling that middle ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we've had similar questions before, and so I'm going to pitch what I've pitched in the past, which is essentially the animation style. I want to use the Young Justice animation style, but make it a Batman show. So it's set in Gotham, it's that Batman, and it's Batman, Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl. And so it's more of a Bat family show, but those characters can have their own episodes. They can team up as needed on different episodes. Sometimes it can just be a Batman episode. And then, yeah, like a very traditional designs for the Bat villains, but in that same Young Justice animation style. I think that would be awesome. And then just that same tone, that same Young Justice tone. I do like what you said, though, Tony, about, like, you can make the episodes more one-offs, like they did with Batman the Animated Series, where you can just jump in and watch an episode at any time, where it doesn't necessarily have to connect to the episode that comes before or after it. But yeah, that would be my pitch, is do it in that style, incorporate more of the Bat family and more of Gotham, and that way you can really mix up, what each episode is about, not just with villains, but also with heroes. All right, next message is from Josh Green. It says, "Hey guys, I just finished Batman 3 Jokers, and I've got a question. From my understanding, when Batman was in the Morbius chair, he asked for the name of the Joker. However, in 3 Jokers, we discover that he already knows his name, and he has known for some time. So am I missing something, or is this a retcon? Also, I've started collecting omnibuses recently, and I got a Nightwing omnibus. It's the Kyle Higgins run from the New 52, and I really like it. I'm not a big fan of the black and red costume, but the story is good. My question is, have you read this run, and what do you think of the oversized format omnibus? Sorry for the long email, and thanks for all that you do, Josh. Thank you, Josh. For the Three Jokers question, I would have to like go back and reread the part where Batman's in the Morbius chair and then reread Three Jokers and see if it jives, because I read those, in real time, very far apart, so I can't be sure. But honestly, I think you bring up a good point. That might be the case. But yeah, it's a good point. Just something I have to think about. Do you guys know better than I?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's been long for yeah.
That's all right. And then the Kyle Higgins run from the New 52 of Nightwing, I really enjoyed. I actually really liked it too. I agree. I preferred the blue costume to the red, but as far as the story goes, I really liked it. But yeah, I don't buy a lot of omnibuses because I've just gone digital. So right now I read everything almost digitally. Brendan, what do you think about the omnibus format?
I'm the same as you. I haven't read the Nightwing run, but omnibuses look great. Don't get me wrong, on a shelf. But yeah, I'm kind of exclusively digital now, so I can't really, comment.
Yeah, it just makes it easier. Tony, what about you?
Same with the omnibus. Like, yeah, they do look great. And if there was something, I'm trying to think of a situation where I would want to have one, but I wouldn't want, a lot of them, for obvious reasons. And as far as the New 52 Nightwing, I can't remember if I read all of it, but it's been, again, many years. So I don't remember. I vaguely remember liking it, but I remember liking a lot of the New 52 stuff. I don't remember specifically, but I remember liking it.
Yeah, same here. Like, I don't remember all the details. It's been a while because I haven't reread it, but I just remember buying it and continuing to buy it because I enjoyed it. So, all right, cool. Next message is from our pal Tom Fallows. It says, "Hey guys, I finally saw Wonder Woman 1984. Thank you, Prime. Like you, I enjoyed the film, but I didn't quite love it. It was still good, and I'm ignoring the negatives. I loved Hans Zimmer's music. It had a real 80s feel. Also, I got a bit of Superman 3 vibe. It involved a down-and-out person, Barbara, gaining powers and working with a greedy businessman, Max, in order to gain money, power, and influence. Even with Diana, she meets an old flame with Steve and is affected by a strange rock. I feel they did Superman 3 right, but I get what you guys mean with your comparisons, and I enjoyed hearing your thoughts. Just wondering, with the reference to a trickster god making the stone, could that be a character in the next film, and what god do you think it'll be? Also, looking at Jill St. John in the last episode, do you think she was the blueprint for Carrie Kelly's Robin in The Dark Knight Returns? Thanks again, Tom Fallows." Thanks, Tom, and I appreciate your thoughts. So what do you think about the trickster god who made the stone in Wonder Woman 1984? And then Jill St. John inspiring Carrie Kelly's Robin. Brendan, what do you think?
Just getting some tough questions today. I mean, obviously you think trickster god, you think Loki, but obviously you can't do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know enough about like if that would come into like the New Gods thing or whatever when it comes to DC. I don't know. And the Jill St. John, I don't know. I mean, frankly, it's hard to say. I think it's probably more of a happy accident.
Mm-hmm.
If it were Grant Morrison writing it, I'd probably be inclined a little bit more to go maybe, because we've seen in the past that he sort of likes to bring in all elements. But yeah, I think it honestly was just kind of more of a genuinely a happy accident than anything deliberate.
All right, Tony, what do you think?
As far as the trickster god, I don't think it's something that they're setting up for the next movie. I feel like it was, just part of this movie, but I thought they don't ever say the god's name in the movie, but I I feel like I looked it up or something after because they were talking about. She calls it like the Lord of Deception, or she gave some names, and there was something I found that was in a old Wonder Woman. I don't know if it was the 80s. It is a god. I just don't remember the name. I'm blanking on the name. But it's not like a famous one like Hades or someone that we've
Right.
heard of. And Hades is actually who I thought it was going to be the whole time. When I kept thinking that's got to be like Hades or something. So and I was like, well, who's going to be? The last one was Ares. So I was kind of surprised it was kind of a obscure one, but I don't think it was a setup or anything. I feel like I don't think that's what that movie was trying to do, was set up anything for a third movie. I think if they're going to do a third movie, it'll be its own, each movie's its own thing.
Yeah.
And I honestly I don't know about the last question. I don't have a theory.
Okay. Yeah, Jill St. John in the Robin outfit in Batman 66. I agree with Brendan. I think it's just a coincidence. I'd be really shocked if Frank Miller said, "Oh, I just loved that visual and that's where Carrie Kelly came from." I think it's just more of a cool coincidence because I can see the comparison. And then as for the God of Deception from Wonder Woman 1984, I thought exactly what you thought, Tony. I kept waiting for them to say Hades because they did Ares, and like the other nefarious god that is the most well-known that everyone would go, oh, I've heard of him, is Hades. But they didn't say that. And I have to watch that scene again because I thought she does say a name, but it was so obscure that it didn't even register. Maybe she didn't even say a name, but it's weird that they just they set it around like this god with this tricky wishing stone, but they never really go into the god himself. I don't think that will come back, but I like that it keeps the franchise rooted in this connection to the gods, and it would make perfect sense to use someone like Hades that people have heard of in the future. I think Circe is the other one that I think you could use because she's pretty well known too.
Even Medusa, perhaps?
Yeah. And I really thought it was Hades again because of the armor. We knew from the trailer that she had that armor, and I remember there was a New 52 story where she got some cool armor and she went down into the underworld to do something with Hades, and I remember thinking that was really cool. So when I saw the armor on the poster, I was like, oh, it's gonna be Hades, it's got to be Hades. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't disappointed with what they did, but I did get I guess I got Trickster God.
Yeah. All right, next question is about Man of Steel. This is from Major Lee. It says, hey, did you know that Scarlett Johansson was originally supposed to play Lois Lane in Man of Steel? Do you think she would have been a great Lois? Thanks, Major. I don't know that. Do you guys know that?
I've never heard that.
Didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not heard that. So that's news to me.
Should have been good.
Yeah, maybe she was on the short list or maybe she auditioned. I don't really know. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, Brendan, what do you think? If she had been cast, do you think she could have been a good Lois Lane?
I think she should have been great. I don't know. I think I'm confusing this with because it was originally wasn't Emily Blunt cast as Black Widow.
Yeah.
And then something happened. Yeah, that's what I'm confusing it with. But I don't know. I mean, by the time Man of Steel came around, like Scarlett Johansson was pretty much well established as Black Widow because we already had Iron Man 2 and the first Avengers movie. So
yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I don't know how possible that would have been, but if she had been, like, if you were talking more for Superman Returns or something, I'd definitely believe it. But yeah, she would have been great. I mean, she's a good actress, so yeah, why not? But I mean, I'm very happy with Amy Adams, so
yeah. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, same. I mean, of Scarlett Johansson, I'd watch her in anything. I'm wondering if this, rumor is something like she was cast like in development of Man of Steel. I mean, because Man of Steel was in development for a while. I mean, they're always trying to
yeah.
rework Superman. So was she being cast while Cavill was cast, or was she before he was even picked? I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I am glad that we got the Lois that we got in BVS.
Yeah.
Oh, and
So
Man of Steel. Sorry. Yes.
I remember hearing that Man of Steel was like the working title for the next Superman movie for years, like years and years and years, pretty much post Superman Returns. So that could be right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right about the timing. Like, so I don't think she was ever cast, because you're right. By the time they actually were casting and getting ready to go into production, at this point she was Black Widow. So I can't imagine that would have been the case. But yeah, at some point, maybe during development, she was on the short list, or they had her there, but it didn't quite work out. But I agree. I think she would have been great. I think she would have been a great Lois Lane if that's how things would have gone. But I also think Amy Adams was a great Lois Lane. So I'm not really mad about it. The funniest thing is what you said, Brendan, which is Emily Blunt was supposed to be Black Widow, but she chose, or she didn't choose, but she was tied up in Gulliver's Travels with Jack Black. And so that's what prevented her from becoming Black Widow, which has just got to be one of those biggest, like, oh man, really? For Gulliver's Travels?
She got to be Mary Poppins.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, next message is from Buford Howard. It says, "Greetings, Bat Family. I heard someone say on a podcast that the reason the MCU is so successful is because Kevin Feige is a Marvel fanboy and didn't panic if a movie wasn't successful. They just continued, and he cared for the characters. And with DC, all they care about is making money, and they always panic and cancel the franchises." The person also said that the reason the Burton Schumacher movies failed is because it was more about making money and merchandising, and the directors were not comic book fans and didn't care about the characters. I would just like your thoughts on these comments. Thanks, Buford. Well, I mean, first of all, the Burton Schumacher films weren't failures. There's a reason there was 4 of them. It's because they made money, so they kept making new ones. So, I mean, I guess the greater question is the MCU more successful because Kevin Feige loves Marvel, and the DC movies are less successful because those filmmakers are not big DC fans? It seems like that's the question. What do you think, Brendan?
I kind of feel like this is a loaded question, or my response could be loaded. I don't know. One way to look at it is potentially that Marvel, I mean, yeah, they're owned by Disney, but they're also their own studio. Whereas DC, it's still very much Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
That could play a part of it. It's tricky because it's something that does irritate me, but I also kind of have to give them credit, is that yeah, Marvel have made some duds, but it doesn't seem to change anything. I mean, like The Incredible Hulk, people tend to forget about that movie, but it's very much part of the MCU. But they've gotten themselves to the point where audiences just trust that red logo so much that it doesn't matter how good or bad a movie is. People flock to see it, and it makes a shit ton of money. And like I said, that really irks me, that some movies that are just not that good get all this praise thrown at them and all this money at the box office. And it's like, but if the quality's not that good and you're still giving them this kind of money, they're still just going to produce the same sort of quality all the time. And I for me, in Phase 3, it kind of, the good and the great were majorly outweighed by the average. So, but again, it's they've earned that faith in the audience, and I have to give them credit for that. But yeah, I don't know if it's the whole Feige being a Marvel fan versus, I mean, I know the directors of the movies are fans of the properties that we've got in the current DC films. I would say, out of the Burton Schumacher films, that Schumacher was definitely a fan. I think that's evident in the movies that he made, and it's evident in that he was a fan of the '60s show. I think we talked about that last week when we were doing the commentary. Like, you look at the '60s show and you look at his two films, and they're very much a '90s version of the '60s show. Burton was kind of the wild card in that I think he obviously had a like for the character and some sort of respect for the character, but I wouldn't say he grew up reading. He was even quoted as saying he didn't really read the comics or anything, and I doubt that he would have watched the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he wasn't a fan. I'm using my finger quotes there, but he made one very, very good Batman movie, and then he made another that, he had more artistic control over, that I still think's a good Batman movie. It's not as good as the one he made prior, but I'm not shitting on Batman Returns in saying that. Like, I think most people would say it's not as good as the first one in terms of a Batman movie. I don't know if I can really add any more to that, but I mean, I get that the head. I mean, like I said, Marvel are their own studio, and you've got a figurehead there who is a Marvel guy, and DC doesn't sort of come into, like, they fall into a different category because DC isn't their own studio making movies. It's just a section of Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, very similar. I mean, there's a lot in that email that I don't necessarily agree with. There was there's some truth in there. So as far as Marvel, Brennan's right on. I mean, Marvel's its own studio, so when they were launching the MCU, they had no choice but to go all in, and they had their plan and they had to stick with it because that's all they did. They were either gonna fail massively and go down with the ship, or they were gonna do what they ended up doing. Whereas DC is just one of many properties for Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers doesn't, it's a big part of Warner Brothers. It's arguably their most valuable property. But you've got to remember back in 2008 or whenever the MCU started, Warner Brothers still had Harry Potter. That was their kind of cash cow. They
still had Nolan.
They might have killed that one, but we'll see.
Oh, I mean Nolan Batman.
Oh, Nolan Batman, right. They had the Nolan Batman, but even after that, even after Dark Knight Rises, they didn't need DC. So if Man of Steel, in their eyes, was not as successful as they wanted to, well, then I think the emailer said something about panicked. I think that's where a lot of the mistakes with DC is. They always seem to over course correct all the time. So it was like Man of Steel wasn't a flop, but it was like it didn't make $1 billion, so let's add Batman. Okay, though, so they do that. Oh, it's the audience says it's too dark. Let's fire the director and make it completely different. It doesn't even seem like the same universe. So it does seem like the Warner Brothers did kind of even with Suicide Squad, with kind of the post-production stuff that they did with that, it seems like they were a lot more overreactive to audience reactions, whereas Marvel early on, at least in the phase 1, was kind of a wait and see, and they did have Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2 is another one where they weren't great, but they stayed the course, and who knows what would happen if, I'm not saying that the DCEU would have been as successful had they stayed the course, but I don't know. I do kind of agree with the emailer that maybe not panic, but over meddled, I guess is the right word I would say, for one difference.
Yeah. So this email, as Brendan said, it's very loaded. It is. So I don't agree with, oh, the DC filmmakers aren't fans of the characters and that's why it's bad. I don't agree with that at all. Nobody commits 3 years of their lives to making a movie if they're not a fan of the source material, or if they're not passionate about the source material. Even Tim Burton, sure, he made changes to make it resonate better with him, but he still committed years of his life to making this thing. He is a fan, at least, of the concept of Batman and his world, and he just wanted to do his take on that world. So no, I don't think it's fair to say the DC filmmakers, whether it be from the old era or the new era, aren't fans of the source material, and that was why they failed. I don't think that's accurate at all. I do think that there is certainly a valid point to be made about how Marvel, they stayed the course regardless. They were like, this is the plan, and we're going to take it as far as it'll go, and we'll see if people get on board. But there was no course correcting as they went. They just kept going, because what people don't, it's easy to forget now after, Avengers Endgame and Infinity War and these movies, is that phase 1, they were moderately successful at best. The 2 Iron Man movies both made about $600 million worldwide each, which that's a hit, but not some massive world-changing thing. The Incredible Hulk made $260 million worldwide. The first Captain America made $370 million worldwide. Thor made $450 million worldwide. It was just it's weird to say it was a different time, but it was, where a Thor movie could come out and make $450 million worldwide, and everyone high fives and goes, that's a hit, we did it, continue with the franchise. And then Man of Steel comes out and makes whatever it was, 650, something like that, 650, and everyone panics and like, oh no, this isn't big enough. So I think, yes, there is certainly a point to be made where Marvel stayed the course, and then people continued getting on board as they went, which led to the success that they enjoy now. Whereas DC, each one, if the reviews were bad or if the box office wasn't what they wanted, all of a sudden it was another course correct. And so it was just course correct after course correct after course correct. And it was just a lot harder for people to get on board that way. And it just made it an easier target for certain people to continue to, beat down on or whatever. So I think that's more the problem. It's not about whether or not the creatives are fans of those worlds. I think it's just, Marvel was able to stay the course even with minor successes, and then it eventually led to large success, where moderate successes for Warner Brothers / DC caused them to panic. And I think that was an issue.
That's sort of, when you were talking, Andy, made me think too about how I've said in a lot of ways the Nolan Batman movies have done a lot of good, but they also did a lot of bad with precedents that they set. And I think, I don't know what it is in the last decade, but the figure of $1 billion, like until The Dark Knight, I don't ever recall the $1 billion thing being a benchmark. Like, I mean, obviously movies were judged on how they did at the box office and everything, but there was never that figure that was thrown out there. And I mean, with the Man of Steel thing, I mean, $650 million, that's not a bad box office return at all. And I mean, had the 2 previous Batman movies not made $1 billion, and also the Avengers the year before, would have Warner Brothers cared? I mean, Man of Steel, it's a bloody good Superman movie. And yeah, it does make me wonder if they'd done a Man of Steel 2 and then sort of grown things a bit more organically instead of panicking where we'd be. But that $1 billion figure, man, it really pisses me off, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Man of Steel, if I remember correctly, doubled Batman Begins. I don't remember what Batman Begins worldwide was, but I feel like it was like 300.
It was around 400, I think.
Batman Begins wasn't huge. It found its audience on home video.
Exactly. Just like Captain America and Thor. I mean, they were hits in the theater, but I mean, they were they were unknown characters, but they were the launching of a new franchise. So they're always gonna have people that don't. We'll kind of wait and see. I'll wait till it comes out on video. I think that's another kind of advantage that Marvel had, is that at least with the MCU characters, not Spider-Man or the X-Men, is none of those characters in the Avengers are really well known outside of the kind of the comic book community or the geek community. So they didn't have any like expectations of what people, think Iron Man is supposed to be, like they do with Superman and Batman. And when Disney in 5 years reboots the MCU, like they do with the Lion King, then we're gonna see a bunch of fans complain about this person's not as good as Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. I think that's when you're gonna see a lot of backlash or fallout, is people fall in love with this version of the character, so then when they do a new version, they're not gonna like it. And I think that's sometimes what it's kind of the curse of Batman and Superman, is they're so beloved and been around for so long and have these iconic Christopher Reeve and Keaton and Christian Bale. It's like every time a new Batman movie comes out, they're just being compared to the ones before, and it's fair, but I think that is one kind of disadvantage that DC has.
Yeah, and the thing too that Marvel had going for them was the Avengers, because, like you said, those first movies weren't they were moderately successful, but they weren't to the same financial success that Marvel movies are now. And I think it is a case of when that first Avengers movie came out, people were like, "Oh, okay, this is this new big deal of a movie. I need to go back and rewatch all these other ones." And I mean, I was working in movie retail at the time, and they did those movies were kind of always on the shelf. Like they were never, but when that first Avengers movie came out, people started to, they started to fly off the shelves because they were really keen to catch up to go and see the Avengers, and hence the Avengers being the billion-dollar juggernaut that it was. They had those other movies they were discovered after the fact. But yeah, you're right. Like people, they sort of reinvent history a little bit, because from 2008 to 2012, like those movies were okay, successful, but they weren't like Marvel today.
Yeah. And I was just looking, because obviously I was throwing out like neighborhood numbers, but yeah, Man of Steel did 669 worldwide. Iron Man 1 did 585. Iron Man 2 did 623. So yeah, I mean, Man of Steel outgrossed the first two Iron Man movies, but and before everyone writes in and go, yeah, but it's Superman, and I WB agreed. that's what they're like. They're like 669 is not enough. It's Superman. If it's not a billion, if you're not first, you're last. If it's not a billion, it's zero. So we got to do something else. So
such a shame.
Yeah. So there you have it. I mean, yeah, I God, that could be its own whole podcast, but at least those are
almost was.
It almost was, which means we're not going to get to the rest of the emails because I got to go. So sorry, y'all. We're any emails left in the box, so we'll have to wait until next time. We're going to wrap this baby up. We're going to close the Wayne Manor mailbox. If you do have a message, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. But thank you as always for joining us for our little chat about everything happening around DC. Tony, congratulations, and thanks for joining us on your first episode of Holy BatCast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Enjoy your brunch, Andy.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're starving.
I will. Are you like on Twitter or whatever? People could find you?
I am on Twitter at Nino, NINO_83.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tony. It was a pleasure. Brendan, thank you as always as well.
No worries. I mean, the listeners now they'd know where to find me on Twitter at Loey007. Also my podcast, The Nightlight, but I'm not sure when a new episode's coming out, so I'll let you know when it does. But yeah, follow me on Twitter. That's probably the best place.
Cool. Awesome. Well, anyway, thank both of you guys, and thank you everybody out there listening for downloading. As always, we do appreciate it. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode, and please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And as Michael Keaton's Batman says, I want you to tell all your friends about me. Visit holybatcast.com or follow Holy BatCast on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or in Facebook. Yeah. Phew. And Facebook. Again, if you've got anything for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. That'll do it. On behalf of Brendan and Tony, I've been Andy. This has been Holy BatCast. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by real fans for real movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
Not only do I have to get brunch, but I also have to put on clothes.
Oh, wow.
Important things. I mean, I could wear my pajamas. I am wearing my fetching Aquaman pajamas. So I think
nice.
I think the people of Beijing deserve to see this.
It might be a little bit fresh out though for you.
That is true. I'll have to put on some thermals or something.